From darkness to life, how a human man kiss awoke the alien queen. The crystal chamber. The atmosphere recyclers wheezed in the background as Talon Voss adjusted his equipment in the dim light of the ancient Lyrani ruins. 6 months on Althera, and the dying planet still held countless mysteries. His expedition team had returned to orbit weeks ago, but something about this place, these forgotten chambers with their pulsing bioluminescent markings, had compelled him to stay. Final scan sequence initiated, he murmured into his recorder. The crystalline structure appears to be some kind of stasis technology, unlike anything in our databases. The massive hexagonal chamber housed a single formation at its center, a towering crystal that seemed to capture and refract the faint light. But it was what lay within that had stolen Talon's breath upon discovery, a figure, unmistakably female despite her alien features, suspended in perfect preservation. According to fragmentary records, she might be Neriel, the last queen of the Lyrani before their civilization's decline. The remaining Lyrani tribes spoke of her in reverent whispers, a leader lost centuries ago during the Great Calamity. Talon brushed his hand across a control panel, carefully logging the ancient symbols. His translator implant worked through the glyphs slowly. Life, restoration, awakening, he translated uncertainly. The panel suddenly illuminated beneath his fingers, responding to his touch in a way it hadn't for previous researchers. A low hum filled the chamber, vibrations traveling through the stone floor and into Talon's bones. No. Wait, he began, but it was too late. The crystal encasing the figure began to dissolve, molecule by molecule, revealing pale lavender skin with subtle iridescent patterns. Her features were striking, elegant and sharp, yet undeniably beautiful in their alienness. Her eyes remained closed as she floated gently to the chamber floor. Talon rushed forward, medical scanner in hand. She's alive, he whispered in disbelief. Her eyelids fluttered, revealing eyes of deep amethyst. She spoke, her voice musical yet raspy from centuries of disuse. His translator struggled to keep pace. Who disturbs my slumber? I'm Talon Voss, he responded, kneeling beside her. A researcher from Earth. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock. With surprising strength, she grasped his wrist, studying his face intently. The prophecy, she whispered. The outsider who would come when Althera's final cycle begins. Her gaze drifted to the chamber's ceiling where a network of cracks had formed. You are too late, or perhaps precisely on time. As Neriel attempted to stand, her legs buckled. Talon caught her instinctively, surprised at how light she felt in his arms despite being nearly as tall as him. Careful, he said softly. You've been in stasis for centuries. Their eyes met and something inexplicable passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, though they were strangers from different worlds. Her fingers brushed his cheek with gentle curiosity. Your warmth, Neriel murmured. I had forgotten what living warmth feels like. Outside, Althera's dual moons rose over the horizon, casting the ruined city in silver-blue light. The awakening had begun, and with it a connection neither of them could yet understand. A strange new world. The Lyrani settlement of Vashara buzzed with whispers as Talon guided Neriel through streets illuminated by bioluminescent flora. News of the Queen's return had spread rapidly among the remaining tribes, drawing both reverence and suspicion. They look at me as though I am a ghost, Neriel observed, her graceful steps becoming steadier each day. 2 weeks had passed since her awakening, and the rapid adaptation of her body continued to astonish Talon's scientific mind. You are, in a way, he replied softly. The stories of your sacrifice have become legend. No one expected you to return. A group of Lyrani elders approached, their elongated limbs adorned with ceremonial markings. They bowed deeply before Neriel, speaking in their native tongue, a complex language of clicks and melodic tones that Talon's translator struggled to fully capture. The council requests your presence, Luminous One, the eldest said. There are matters of great importance to discuss. Neriel nodded regally, then turned to Talon with unexpected vulnerability in her eyes. Will you accompany me? I find your perspective grounding. The council chamber was a massive hollowed tree, its interior walls carved with the history of the Lyrani people. As Neriel took her ancestral seat, Talon noticed the subtle shift in her demeanor. the queen replacing the disoriented woman he had first met. "Our world dies," stated council leader Zithril bluntly. "The sacred waters recede, the soil grows barren. Your return was foretold, but the prophecy speaks of restoration. How will you save us, luminous one?" Neriel's expression remained composed, though Talon noticed her fingers tightening around the armrests. "I have been absent for centuries. I must learn what Althera has become before I can help heal it." The meeting continued for hours, tensions rising as various faction representatives made demands. When they finally emerged, night had fallen, and Neriel's shoulders slumped with exhaustion. "They expect miracles," she whispered, as they walked toward the dwelling that had been prepared for her. "But I am not the queen they remember. Time has changed everything." In the privacy of her quarters, Talon watched as she removed her ceremonial adornments, her movements revealing both strength and weariness. "Tell me about your world," she requested suddenly, settling beside him. "Help me forget mine for a moment." Talon described Earth, its oceans and mountains, its crowded cities and quiet forests. Neriela listened intently, her fingers occasionally brushing his as he displayed holographic images. "Your species seems remarkably adaptable," she observed. "Perhaps that is why you were the one to find me." "Maybe it was just chance," Talon replied. Neriel shook her head. "My people don't believe in chance." Her hand deliberately covered his, the sensation of her smooth skin sending an unexpected warmth through him. When two paths intersect across the void of space, there is purpose. Later that night, unable to sleep, Talon found Neriel in the garden, bathing in the light of the moons. She had shed her formal attire for a simple robe, her iridescent skin shifting with subtle patterns that seemed to reflect her emotions. "The stars are different," she said without turning. "Constellations I knew have shifted. It makes me feel lost," Talon offered, moving to stand beside her. "Found," she corrected, surprising him. "For centuries I existed in darkness. Now I see the universe anew through fresh eyes." Her gaze met his, filled with something that transcended their biological differences. "Through your eyes, Talon Voss." Her fingers tentatively intertwined with his, an intimate gesture that needed no translation. Echoes of the past. The ancient archives were housed deep beneath the surface, protected from Althera's increasingly harsh climate. Talon followed Neriel through crystalline passageways that responded to her presence, illuminating as they passed. "These records contain our complete history," she explained, her voice echoing. "Including, I hope, the truth about my imprisonment." For nearly a month they had worked together to piece together the events leading to Neriel's centuries-long stasis. The official histories claimed she had voluntarily entered the crystal to await a time when she could save her people, but fragments of evidence suggested a more sinister reality. "Here," Talon called, his scanner detecting an anomaly within a seemingly blank wall. "There's a hidden compartment." Neriel pressed her palm against the surface, which dissolved at her touch. Inside lay a small memory crystal, its facets dulled with age. "A personal record," she whispered, recognizing the royal insignia. "Mine?" They retreated to Neriel's private chambers to review the contents. The holographic projection revealed a younger Neriel, her expression grave. "If this record survives, then the worst has happened," the recording began. "High Commander Vexillus has betrayed the throne. He claims my research into the planetary rejuvenation process threatens ancient traditions. In truth, he fears the redistribution of power it would require." Talon watched the living Neriel's face harden as her past self detailed the political conspiracy that had led to her forced containment in stasis, not as a savior waiting to return, but as a prisoner. "Vexillus's descendants still hold power in the northern territories," Neriel said quietly when the recording ended. "They will not welcome this truth." Talon moved closer, his hand finding the small of her back. "Truth rarely comes without cost." Her eyes met his, vulnerability breaking through her regal composure. "I was to sleep until death. You were never supposed to find me." The realization hung between them. Their meeting, the connection that had grown between them, existed only because of an ancient betrayal. Neriel's hand came to rest against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his human heart. "Your presence changes everything," she whispered. Talon couldn't pinpoint when their relationship had shifted, when scientific curiosity had transformed into something deeper. Perhaps it was during their long conversations about their vastly different worlds. or in the quiet moments when she allowed herself to be simply Neriel rather than the queen. I should maintain professional distance, he had told himself repeatedly. Yet here she was, her face tilted toward his. The distinction between research subject and woman impossibly blurred. Their first kiss was hesitant, an exploration of unfamiliar territory. Her lips were cooler than a human's, with a subtle sweetness that reminded Talon of mountain streams on Earth. When they parted, Neriel's eyes held a mixture of wonder and alarm. This complicates matters, she said, though she made no move to increase the distance between them. Complications seem to be what I do best, Talon replied with a small smile. That night, political concerns momentarily forgotten, they discovered the geography of their differences, the places where human and Lyrani physiology aligned and diverged. Neriel's touch was both gentle and curious, mapping the contours of his body as though committing them to memory. Your heart beats so quickly, she murmured against his chest. Only around you, Talon answered truthfully. In the soft glow of Althera's moons filtering through the chamber windows, they created a new language between them, one that required no translator to understand. Oh, the ancient temple. The expedition to the ancestral temple had been planned in secrecy, with Vexilus's descendants mobilizing forces against Neriel's rule. They had precious little time to find the rumored planetary heart, an ancient artifact said to hold the key to restoring Althera's failing ecosystems. The temple lies beyond the Whispering Dunes, explained Elder Thalos, one of Neriel's few trusted advisors. No one has ventured there in generations. The path is treacherous. Then why send the queen herself? Talon asked, concern evident in his voice. Because only royal blood can activate the heart, Neriel replied, adjusting the environmental suit designed to protect her from the increasingly toxic atmosphere of Althera's wastelands. And I won't ask others to face dangers I'm unwilling to confront myself. Their small vessel skimmed over the dunes as Althera's crimson sun beat down mercilessly. Talon observed how Neriel's presence inspired unwavering loyalty in their small crew, 4 Lyrani scouts and a geologist. Yet he alone saw her moments of doubt when no one was watching. On the 3rd day of their journey, a devastating sandstorm forced them to take shelter in a narrow canyon. As the winds howled outside their temporary refuge, Talon found Neriel studying ancient star charts, her brow furrowed in concentration. You should rest, he said, offering her a container of purified water. Queens don't have that luxury, she replied, though she accepted the water gratefully. Especially queens who abandoned their people for centuries, however unwillingly. Talon sat beside her, their shoulders touching. You're being too hard on yourself. And you're too forgiving, she countered, though her expression softened. It's your human nature, perhaps. Your species seems to find hope in the most unlikely places. Is that what I am to you? Talon asked quietly. A symbol of hope? Neriel set aside her charts and turned to face him fully. In the dim light, the luminescent patterns beneath her skin pulsed with emotion. You are far more, she whispered, her fingers tracing the contour of his jaw. You are the unexpected variable in an equation I thought was fixed. You are the reason I no longer merely want to save my world out of duty, but because I wish to see what it could become, what we could become. Their kiss was deeper this time, weighted with the understanding of what they risked. Talon's hands found the sensitive spots at the base of Neriel's spine that made her shiver, while her cool fingers slipped beneath his clothing to explore the warmth of his skin. Your heat, she murmured against his neck. It awakened something primal in me. They made love slowly, mindful of the others nearby, yet unable to resist the gravity drawing them together. In the aftermath, lying entwined, Neriel shared an ancient Lyrani belief. My people say that when 2 souls find each other across impossible distances, the universe itself has intervened, she explained, her head resting on his chest. Such connections are sacred. On Earth, Talon responded, we call it beating the odds. Her laughter, rare and musical, echoed softly through their shelter. The temple, when they finally reached it, rose from the dunes like an enormous crystal formation, its spires catching and refracting the sunlight. Intricate glyphs covered its translucent walls, symbols that predated even Neriel's time. The entrance requires blood of the sovereign, she explained, approaching a recessed panel near what appeared to be a sealed doorway. Without hesitation, She pressed her palm against a crystalline needle that emerged from the panel. The temple awakened with a low hum, pathways illuminating to guide them deeper into its heart. As they descended, the air grew noticeably cleaner, filled with the scent of vegetation. Impossible, breathed the Lurani geologist, touching the living moss that covered the inner walls. How can anything grow here? They found their answer in the central chamber, a massive spherical room where a pulsing crystalline orb floated above a pool of luminescent liquid. Surrounding the pool, impossibly, was a garden of thriving plant species that had been extinct on the surface for centuries. The planetary heart, Neriel whispered reverently. It's not just an artifact, it's a seed bank, a perfect ecosystem in miniature. As she approached the floating orb, it responded to her presence, descending slowly until it hovered before her. It contains the genetic material of every species native to Althera, she explained, her scientific knowledge awakening from centuries of dormancy. And the algorithmic patterns for atmospheric and soil regeneration. Talon watched in awe as Neriel communed with the ancient technology, her body absorbing and processing information at a speed his instruments could barely register. When she finally turned to him, her eyes shone with tears of hope. We can save Althera, Talon. Not quickly, but completely. Their moment of triumph was shattered by a distant explosion. The temple shuddered, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. They've found us, one of the scouts reported grimly. Vexilus's forces approach from the north. Neriel's expression hardened into regal determination as she secured the planetary heart in a protective container. Then we fight, she stated simply, reaching for Talon's hand. For our future. Between two worlds, the throne room of New Vashara gleamed with crystal and living light, newly constructed from the regenerating resources of Althera. 6 months had passed since the battle at the temple, a conflict that had ultimately united the Lurani people once the truth of the ancient betrayal was revealed. Neriel stood before the assembly of tribal leaders, the planetary heart now integrated into a magnificent pillar behind her throne. Already its influence had begun to heal the atmosphere, allowing the first new growth in the sacred forests in decades. Our world renews itself, she addressed the council, but our society must also evolve if we are to survive and thrive. Her gaze found Talon standing quietly at the side of the chamber. Their relationship had become an unavoidable political reality, whispered about by citizens, debated heatedly in council meetings. The alliance I propose with the Earth Federation offers mutual benefits, Neriel continued. Their sustainable terraforming technology complements our biological knowledge. Together we can accelerate Althera's healing. High Elder Crixus rose, his ancient face creased with concern. And what of the human presence this would bring? Already your attachment to the Earthmen causes concern among traditionalists. The room fell silent, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Neriel's private life had become inextricably linked with matters of state. My personal relationships are not subject to council approval, she replied evenly. But let me address your underlying fear. Yes, I love him, and in doing so I have learned that our differences can be our greatest strength. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Talon remained still, though his heart raced at her public declaration. Our isolation nearly destroyed us, Neriel continued. It was an Earthman who awakened your queen, an Earthman who helped recover the planetary heart. Perhaps it is time we acknowledge that our future may depend on building bridges, not walls. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the council narrowly approved the alliance. As the assembly dispersed, Neriel finally approached Talon, the weight of her royal persona slipping away in his presence. That was quite a speech, he said quietly, taking her hands in his. Was it too much? She asked, a rare moment of uncertainty crossing her features. It was exactly enough, he assured her. Later, in the privacy of their shared quarters, a symbolic space that merged Lurani and human design elements, they stood on the balcony overlooking the slowly recovering landscape. The first new rainfall in a generation had fallen that morning, leaving everything with a glistening sheen. I received a message from Earth today, Talon said, his arm around her waist. They've approved my permanent diplomatic status here. Neriel turned to him, hope and caution mingling in her expression. And you're certain? Your career, your world. My world is where you are now, he interrupted gently. Besides, someone needs to represent human interests here. Might as well be the human who's hopelessly in love with the queen. Her laughter, now a more common sound, filled the air between them. Such diplomacy. Is that what they teach at your Earth universities? No, he replied, drawing her closer. That's entirely self-taught. Neriel's fingers traced the now familiar contours of his face. There will be challenges. Children may be impossible. Our lifespans differ significantly. Every relationship faces obstacles, Talon said. Ours just happened to be interstellar. As Altera's dual moons rose above the horizon, bathing them in silver-blue light reminiscent of their first night together, Neriel initiated the intimate Leirani bonding ritual she had described but never performed. Her forehead pressed against his, the luminescent patterns beneath her skin extending outward, briefly mingling with his human aura. With this touch I acknowledge that our paths are joined, she whispered the traditional words. Though we were born under different stars, we choose to walk beneath the same sky. Talon responded with words he had carefully practiced in her native tongue, the complex sounds no longer foreign to his human vocal cords. That night their lovemaking held new significance, no longer an exploration but a confirmation of all they had built together. As Neriel's cool skin warmed beneath his touch, Talon marveled at the journey that had brought them here, from researcher and subject to partners standing between two worlds. In the quiet aftermath, as Neriel slept beside him, Talon gazed out at the slowly healing landscape of her world. New growth pushed through previously barren soil, just as their unexpected love had blossomed in the most unlikely of places. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Diplomatic negotiations, restoration projects, the inevitable complications of merging two vastly different societies. But for tonight, in this moment of perfect peace, Talon understood with complete clarity that some connections transcend the barriers of species, worlds, and time itself. On the nightstand lay his journal, where he had written words meant only for himself. I came to Althera seeking knowledge. Instead I found home.